We got new polls, fresh, hot off the presses. Nate Silver, who I think had a big role, whether he intended to or not, in actually getting Kamala on the ballot and getting Biden off, because he started publishing some data with his silver bulletin model that suggested Donald Trump was going to completely trounce Joe Biden in November. And that's when you saw panic. And they thought, okay, we have to do something, we have to do something. And they set up that debate. And Joe Biden was terrible at the debate. And you know the rest of the story. He went on ABC News, and that was awful, et cetera, et cetera. So in walks Kamala, and they thought they had a shot. I mean, I didn't think so. In fact, I keep citing the poly market data, which I'm going to get to because we're looking at a new high there, because the market certainly doesn't think so. But Nate Silver was like, okay, maybe this will work, especially after the debate, because she attacked Trump, and he started to lose a little bit of momentum. But now, ladies and gentlemen, that's shifted. Take a look at the brand new information coming out of Nate Silver. You're looking at a 50.2% chance of Donald Trump winning the Oval Office. This is the Electoral College versus 49.5% for Kamala Harris. Now, before you say, it's so close, like, what does it really mean? Nate points out, yes, it is really close. By the way, poly market, it's not close. It's not close. I'll show you that right now. 61.3%. This is a new high. All right, so he finished up that interview, or she finished up that interview. Brett finished up the interview with her. And all of a sudden, you started to see the forecast start predicting. Like, this is real money, okay? This is real money. This is a prediction market, and people are betting on who they believe is going to be the next president of the United States. There's now 61.3% chance. And I got to tell you, the betting markets are never wrong. Like, they've been wrong twice, going back to, I think, 1868 or so. So you're seeing a lot of momentum there. And then in terms of what Nate is publishing over at Silver Bulletin, to which I subscribe, I'm going to read to you what he wrote. Look, there's a 2-point lead out of a high-quality national poll and a big lead in Georgia, though he trails in North Carolina in the same Quinnipiac poll. Now, if you squint at the probabilities today, you're going to see Trump 50.2%, Harris 49.5% chance of winning, and then there's this 0.3% chance of a 269 tie. So you got to get to 270, of course, in order to win the Electoral College. And he's like, okay, it's not that much different from yesterday's forecast of Trump at 49.4 and Harris at 50.3. But however nominal, it is Trump's first lead in Nate's model since September 19th. Okay, I think this is a big deal because, by the way, once he starts to get momentum, if it looks like he's going to win Pennsylvania, well, then it's game over, okay? And this is what poly market is reflecting right now when I look at the poly market data, because what they're suggesting, let me see if I have that for you. Oh, yeah. Okay. What they're suggesting is the 61.3% chance. And I also just want to show you this because I like this data. I love graphs. They're seeing basically this whole spread sort of open up. Can you see that 61% to 39% Harris? And that sort of crossover in those lines, you can see how it was running neck and neck. It's getting further and further apart as people are saying, yep, you know what? It's game over for Kamala Harris. There's just no way that she can recover from this really bad interview and the reality of what we're all dealing with, massive inflation. This stuff matters. I think that if there was no inflation, the economy was rip-roaring, everything was great, you know what? Like, maybe people would overlook her personality. They would say, okay, I'll deal with it. I'll suck it up and deal with it. I think that they knew Joe Biden wasn't totally there and didn't want to talk about policy a lot, but he kind of seemed like a nice enough guy in their view back in 2020. And they're like, okay, I'll take a chance because I can't deal with the mean tweets anymore. And then people look at this, right? Now they're dealing with energy prices that are 34.3% higher. And they're like, hey, you know what? I'll take a few mean tweets any day of the week. CNN knows it. They said this the other day.
I mean, the bottom line is this. At this particular hour, if you believe the polling, Donald Trump's going to put up the best performance with black voters since Richard Nixon back in 1960. Not 68, since 1960. That's 64 years ago. Among Hispanic voters, Donald Trump's going to put up the best performance for Republicans since 2004 and George W. Bush.
Yeah. And that's why, as we look at Nate today, I think this is significant and this is important. I like his model because it's more of a financial model. He looks at a whole bunch of things, all of those polls, and then he puts in, a bunch of economic statistics and this, that, and the other. So he's different than the guy with the 13 keys, Alan Lichtman. May just be wrong. His keys are telling him there's no chance that Donald Trump wins. And I'm like, the keys may be a little dated and they may be a little bit biased, just like you, Alan. So this is a little bit less bias, if you would. These are just numbers. And so, you're running all these different scenarios, just like you would if, you're making a trade or something that, Wall Street traders do this kind of thing all the time because you're trying to look within sort of the possibilities. And he's a statistician, et cetera. So this is amazing to me. So now Trump has crossed over into the positive territory. And then when you look at the real money, it's even more significant. And I don't think there's anything that she can do.
Right. So party ID nationally. You go to October, November of 2016, Democrats had a 3-point advantage. You go 4 years ago, Democrats had a 6-point advantage. Look at where we are today, Manu. Republicans with a 1-point advantage. A very different picture, very much mirroring what we see in the party registration numbers in those key battleground states and Pennsylvania in particular.
It actually just shows you, too, why Harris is doing what she's trying to do. She's trying to moderate a little bit on these issues, trying to reach those very voters because the party registration is changing and the demographics of the voters are changing. And those are the people she needs to attract.
Absolutely. And the GOP leads by a point in party identification right now. The average when the Republican Party loses is the Democrats ahead by 8. When the Republican Party wins, the average party ID advantage for Democrats is 3. Republicans right now, Manu, are doing even better than the average when they win. If there's one little nugget that I think Republicans are really hopeful for, it's this party ID and this party registration data. It really points in a good direction for them and for Donald Trump.
Wow.
Yeah. And I would just say this was actually a few days before, right? So that this soundbite that I just played you in the data is actually from a couple of days ago. Things have shifted. Literally, they're shifting in real time overnight. The momentum is with one candidate right now.